So we finished talk about Neisseria gonorrhea. We're going to mention the second one. Okay, second group of sexually transmitted disease, very popular, which is called syphilis. But before we go detail, we want to talk about a little bit about the whole story. So this is called Spirochetes. And we mentioned about in the examination one, we want to mention again. So Spirochetes, we usually say this is a very special bacteria. Okay. Why we say it's a special bacteria? This is obligate parasite. I want to use quotation mark parasite. Not really like a parasite, it's not like Clotox plasmodium. So this is needs a host to survive. So obligate parasite. Where it comes from? Usually it comes from cuts, bites, and abrasions of the body. Now this bacteria, what it looks like, I said a couple of times, this is called asexual filaments. And there is no cell wall structure, which means no peptide glycan. It's very soft. Because there's no strong, no cell wall structure, very soft. So you basically cannot do gram stain. And it do not have how they moving, because this comes from cuts, bites, abrasions. How they can't go inside? They have endoflagella. And we had a picture for that, if you still remember the slides. Okay, asexual filaments, no cell wall, we cannot do gram stain, we use endoflagella. Now, how we diagnose it? If you still remember, we need to rely on dark field microscope. Remember, there is a block underneath the condenser, so the light going through the specimen which is perpendicular. So we need to rely on dark field microscope. This is something I want to mention at the beginning. Now, I want to mention about the first one, which is Treponema palladium. Treponema palladium cause syphilis. Okay, I want to let you know, syphilis is the most dangerous sexually transmitted disease in all time. Even right now, nobody can control it very well, because they have asymptom, could be asymptom carrier, or could be moving into the third stage for a very, very long time. Okay, so at the beginning of the syphilis, there are 3 stages. First stage is about 2 to 7 weeks. Sometimes it's shorter than that. We call it chancre or shaky. This is French words. What that means? This means in penis, you will see there is lesions. This is the first one. The second stage, we call it, it's another 10 to 14 days, or maybe longer. We call it guma. Also French words. Now what happened is, at this stage, this lesion could be disappear, could be gone. So you think you're recovered. Then the people going through another sexual activity thing cause a problem for the other people, because the lesion could disappear. Now at this stage, what's going to happen, if we draw very simple, it will be a whole body. I'm not a good drawing, but I just draw the picture. You will have a whole body of red rash. Now, People will see those red rashes. They think you have a skin disease. It's not like sexually transmitted disease. Okay? So they're scared. There's some people scared, some people doesn't care. Third stage, this could be up to 30 years. This will be cardiovascular and neurological disease. Neurological symptoms, which means you have a double vision, vomiting, scare to the light, or any kind of thing could happen. So those are the 3 stages for syphilis. Okay, that's why it is kind of like dangerous. Second thing I want to mention is called Borrelia burgdorferi. This is the pathogen cause Lyme disease. Okay? Why we call it Borrelia burgdorferi? Burgdorferi is a scientist at Montana State University in 1970. And in 1970s, in Connecticut, a town called Lyme, a Lyme County, the first time they find this disease. That's why we named by Borrelia burgdorferi and they call it Lyme disease. Now, what's the symptoms of Lyme disease? Lyme disease, the symptom is you have this, we call it ball eye, or we call it target circular rash on the arm. Usually it's just on the arm. You have this circular ball eye rash. This is a typical symptoms. Now, where is this Lyme disease comes from? This Lyme disease comes from Isodex ticks. Now, where this ticks comes from? Of course, you come from water area, river, lake. So the Lyme disease, what happened is anybody who is interested in diving or marine or ocean diving or like when aquatic activity, you have to do a screening test every 1 to 2 years for Lyme disease. Even you like to do deep sea ocean, like fishing or those activities, you have to test the Lyme disease. Okay? Now, Lyme disease originally caused by the Isodex ticks. This ticks is actually an intermediate host. At the beginning, we have the picture. It's a 2-year transfer program. I almost say it's like a master degree. It's a 2-year program. Now, what happened is that, first of all, this Isodex, you have a nymph called. This nymph will be to carry on Borrelia burgdorferi. And then you're going to find a leaf. Maybe in the environment you find a leaf, you survive there. Then the deer. Then you're going to find a deer. Okay, then the deer maybe eat it, maybe host it, maybe touch it. Then the deer will carry on Borrelia burgdorferi. Then the fecal sample of the deer go into the environment. This is coming from a fall to a next year spring. And then this fecal sample very possibly could go to the water area. So that one causes a problem. This is almost go to a summer. So most of the time it happens in the summer to fall season. That's why. Because that's a 2-year program for transfer. Okay? But the big thing here is the Isodex ticks. So when you have to control the Lyme disease, to control Borrelia burgdorferi, you have to control this Isodex ticks. Control the ticks is more important. You cannot like kill all the deer, is that right? There's no way you do that. So the ticks, control the Isodex ticks is very important. Okay? So this is the second one, which is Borrelia burgdorferi. I'll move this a little bit. Now the third one, we mentioned this before, is Leptospiroin interrogans. What is the leptospira interrogans? This is usually what happened in the water flooding area. It happened in the Philippines, in the water flooding, in the wildlife animals. Usually rats, horse, pigs, all carry on that. Now, what's the characteristics for the leptospira interrogans? It looks like this. So you can see in the picture, we had a picture at the slides. This is we saw it's a hook shape. Underneath dark field microscope. Okay, the characteristics is a hook shape. Now this guy, at the beginning, you have a mild symptoms, pretty much like a cold. Not even flu, fever, a little bit abdomen pain, lethargy, a little bit like all kinds of uncomfortable. But then, later on, you will become neurological symptoms. So which means it's very invasive. Okay, it happened in the Philippines. Some Asian countries before, when it's a flooding, you have a large flooding area. Then when the water comes out, who is favored for those areas? Is kids. Kids see all the water goes, it's like a swimming pool. Then they go just natural swimming pool. Then they go there to swimming. Now what happens? This guy could be through the skin, go to the bloodstream, and they cause very invasive infections. Okay, so this is the third one. So when we talk about syphilis, we basically talk about the Treponema pallidum cause syphilis. Sorry, when we talk about the Spirochetes, which is Treponema pallidum cause syphilis, Borrelia burgdorferi cause Lyme disease, and the leptospira interrogans, this is the most typical symptoms is jaundice, which means you have a liver disease, plus very typical is yellow eye. The conjunctive tissue of the eye is yellow. So it's like a yellow eye. That's a very, very typical symptoms. Okay? So this part, we almost finished. We talk about bacterial disease. I will put like 3 sets of the fact sheets, which is pretty much all we have, put on the eCampus. Please try to read it. Because in the exam, we have a lots of case study, and you have to read those. Then you do it. Okay, I'll put on the eCampus of the weekend. Thank you.